Toshio Okada speaks with full conviction that he is a psychopath. Reading a diagnostic checklist and thinking, that makes sense, that reaction itself is already proof of psychopathy. For key traits of a psychopath, emotional poverty, lying without remorse, egocentrism, and absence of guilt. Okada genuinely accepts that all of them apply to him. A normal person, told they're a psychopath, would panic. But he just thought, oh, that explains everything. His ex-wife's words, "You're only figuring that out now?" hit him hard. Being a psychopath is simply a classification. If you can find work that suits your nature, you can actually contribute to society. He mentions Steve Jobs as a psychopath matter-of-factly.
People who just naturally do it tend to be poor writers. But this woman was writing with remarkable cleverness. The way she used language, everything except for the titles she mentioned, was nearly perfect Japanese. Which made me think, something's off right there, in that specific part. The reason I jumped to that conclusion so quickly is that I have what you'd call a mental difference, something most people don't have. I haven't been formally diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure I have what's known as psychopathy. Psychopathy, as it's described, is referred to as antisocial personality. Severely lacking empathy, cold toward others, unable to connect emotionally, chronically and calmly lies, takes no responsibility for actions, almost no sense of guilt, exaggerated self-esteem, egocentric, smooth talker, charming on the surface. Not all of it fits me, but a lot does. And the parts that make me think, yeah, that tracks. That's the psychopath in me. A normal person would see antisocial personality on a diagnostic test, check off more than half the boxes, and freak out. They'd be shocked, panic, try to deny it, feel depressed, get angry. That's how a normal person would react. But me? I just thought, oh, interesting. That explains a lot of things, actually. I'm divorced, and when I ran into my ex-wife and said, apparently I'm a psychopath, she said, you're only figuring that out now? And honestly, that was a bit of a shock. Why doesn't being called an antisocial personality bother me? Because I see it as nothing more than a label, a category. What matters is whether my antisocial traits are useful or harmful. If someone said, your antisocial personality is causing people trouble, then yes, I'd feel bad about that. But take one of those traits, like chronically and calmly lying. If that same ability belongs to a novelist or manga artist, it becomes a positive force. It contributes to society. In other words, whether someone has an antisocial personality and whether they're useful to society are completely separate questions, and I can instantly separate them. So even regarding the woman in her 50s, I was just gently picking apart earlier. I feel no particular emotion toward her. I do vaguely hope she reflects on things behind the scenes, but honestly, she handled it well, and I thought, that went fine, and I genuinely mean that. I think that's because, within me, whatever sympathy I manage to squeeze out is something I construct deliberately, but spontaneous sympathy just isn't really there. So once you know you're a psychopath, what do? Being ashamed of it, seeing it as a flaw, hiding it from others. None of that helps anyone. Better to just tell people. Otherwise, your psychopathic tendencies might end up causing trouble for those around you without you realizing it. And if someone says, hey Okada, you might not notice this because you're a psychopath, but you should be careful about this, that benefits me too. So you're better off just being open about it. And as for what people think of you as a result, honestly, there's nothing you can do about that. I genuinely feel that. Having a complex about being a psychopath doesn't help anyone. But if you can use it to benefit society, like I mentioned earlier, then everyone comes out ahead. That's how I see it. Psychopaths are said to be ill-suited to ordinary jobs and tend to struggle in social life. Many end up in prison, but if their traits happen to match their work, they can be quite successful. One famous example often cited as a psychopath is Steve Jobs, co-founder of Apple. He was the kind of man who would fire even close staff he'd worked with since college over a single mistake. And his girlfriend, a woman he'd been with since his student, once a month, I do life advice, answered by me, a psychopath. Normally, you'd want someone more robotic than this guy, but here we are. Quite the pair. This is the Psychopath Life Advice session. I don't really understand how people feel, so I work through your questions logically and give you my best reasoning. Today's advice covers 4 main categories. Quite a range: love and family, work and life purpose, school, crime and the underworld, worries about the future, anime, and people asking all sorts of things about me personally. I'll cover all of that in the free and premium sections. For attendees, I've prepared stickers. Printing was a little delayed this time, but to celebrate the new Evangelion release, we made Bikuriman-style stickers with an Illustria art finish. エヴァンゲリオン新作記念ということでですね、ビックリマン風のですね、シールをですね、イラスト屋風に仕上げると。I made them thinking, these characters really didn't exist, did they? There's a psychopath and a Chinibyu. I'm fine with mine, but going forward I want to try anime industry themes with Illustria style art. So to avoid any issues, I gave them somewhat vague names. The backs are all sparkly though. Sorry, printing finishes this week, so we should start shipping around next week. Thanks for your patience. Alright, let's get started. We'll begin with the theme of family and romance. This one's fine as is. I'll put a summary up on screen in a bit, so just take a look when it appears. Inaga, a woman in her 50s. My sister's mannerisms are like a manga character, and I hate it. Both my sister and I are what you'd call anime fans. I'm currently 50 and work as an illustrator. My sister is 48 and works at a company. She pokes her face around a corner and says "stare" out loud. When she turns away, she makes a humph sound. When she laughs, she goes ha ha ha. If she reads something funny, she slaps her cheek and says, "A bug landed on me." She even shoves people out of nowhere going, "Hiya." My sister acts out manga expressions in real. When I ask her why, she says because it's fun. It seems she thinks the people around her will enjoy it, like in a manga. She believes it'll land as a joke. At work, younger staff who are into games and anime call her a goddess, and she's having a great time. Around relatives and strangers, she keeps it fairly restrained, but lately, maybe because I'm getting older, her behavior and way of speaking bother me more and more. When I say something, she snaps back, "I'm an otaku. That's just how I am." Is it wrong of me to ask her to stop talking like that? Or am I overthinking it? So cringe. That's for high school girls. At your age, lock her in Amajito. Everyone's got an opinion in the comments. As I've been doing since last time, this is fundamentally a psychopath life advice session, but it's also an introduction to Toshio Okada, Volume 1. Recently, many people have started watching this channel for the first time, so I'm weaving in information about what else Toshio Okada does as we go along. Returning viewer highlight recap. We're here now. Next up, is it okay to lie during a job interview? A question that came in, and I'm answering it. After that, how do you deal with a boss with a huge ego? The premium extension covers an advanced version of that. Premium members get individual responses. That's the rough structure. Today, as Introduction to Toshio Okada Volume 1, I'm presenting what I call the ultimate human relationship analysis technique. I'm going to introduce a framework called the 4 types. And as the teaching material, I'll be working through your life questions. I want to show you the process of reading a question carefully and choosing the words that will actually reach that person. All right, let's go. I got fired by my boss with a massive ego. There's something to work with here, if it's doable. Let's give it a shot. Now I'll respond to questions submitted by viewers. I'm a psychopath, someone who doesn't really understand how other people feel, so I might come across as blunt. But even if I do sound blunt, it's not out of malice or any desire to mock anyone. I'm coming at it from the angle of, how can this person find some relief? So if I say something harsh, I apologize in advance. I'm sorry. First question, about a part-time job interview. Butaken, male, teens, from Hyogo Prefecture. Good evening, Okada-sensei. I've been watching you on YouTube since middle school, as a free viewer. Free viewers are perfectly welcome. Just watching every week is honestly a bonus for me. I recently had my very first part-time job interview. On the form they gave me, there was a question. If you need a day off or want to change your shift, what would you do? Yeah, these questions are kind of tricky, aren't they? A lawyer who came to my school once told me that when you take a day off from a part-time job, you are not required to find your own replacement. Right. It's common for part-time workers to be told they have to find their own replacement before taking a day off. But that's actually not how it works. So following what the legal expert said, I wrote, I would call in apologetically to let you know. That was my answer on the interview application. The result was, not hired. I have no complaints about not being hired. But what was the correct answer here? Once I get a job and save up some money, I plan to join the Toshio Okada fan membership on YouTube. Thank you for saying that. Simply put, the answer is, I would find someone to cover my shift and then contact you. That's the right answer. That's just my take, of course. What actually happens at real part-time jobs? Well, people just call in sick without finding anyone to cover, all the time, without really exploring options like reduced hours or scaling back. From my perspective, it looks kind of like a kid throwing a tantrum and blaming the government. Anyway, I'm explaining what it means that I'm a psychopath. The reason it looks that way to me is that I don't feel any particular gratitude toward live events. If you're the type who does, you'd go to, say, theater or concerts, right? And there you have actual actors and idols right in front of you. If you feel gratitude for that, you'd want it to continue, to be protected. But I'm more on the side of not really feeling that way. I was taken to concerts when I was young, and I saw a fair amount of theater too. But it was boring and loud and I hated it. Music concerts are absurdly loud with the speaker system. At home, you can adjust the volume yourself. But at a live show, it's just deafeningly loud. And everyone stands up. Why can't I just sit and watch? I thought. So annoying. Back in my day, I'd listen to records at home. And records gave you a far better sound. The performance was better too, recorded dozens of times, with only the best takes used. It was perfect. But at a live show, both the sound and the performers' performances are hit or miss, depending on the day. Some people love that unpredictability. But for me, it's like, please, spare me. Go practice more, and then give me only your best. That's honestly how I feel. You could call this a difference in values, but for me, the big thing is, I just don't feel grateful for it.